So this morning you'll want 2 balls for myofascial release. It could be tennis balls, it could be um, anything about this size. Sometimes you have myofascial balls, maybe a racquetball. And we're going to start with one of the balls at the feet. And you can go ahead and make sure you have a block handy, your other props handy for later. We're going to start by just rolling under one foot. So I'm starting with just the center of the foot, that top of the arch of the foot, and just rolling from the metatarsal arch, which is that smaller arch under the ball of the foot, to the heel. And just gently putting the weight. So just rolling, pressing in there. And the slower you can go, the more unwinding you're going to get. So all the connective tissue, the fascia, goes around every little place in the body, muscle fibers, groups of muscles, and it ends in the feet. It all comes together in the feet. So we're going to start at the feet and just begin that unwinding. So take a few more rolls and just notice what you notice, finding your balance here. And then we're going to go into the heel and just press. Ball of the foot is on the floor. Just pressing there for breath. And then bring the ball back up, press into that metatarsal. So now the heel is on the floor. I'm going to squeeze my toes around the ball and then release. So I'm leaning in. The ball is in that smaller arch right behind the ball of the foot. And I'm just squeezing the toes and then release. And maybe you feel it somewhere else in your body. Just go ahead, take a few more. And then we'll roll it out one more time. So just rolling to the whole foot. And you can get in there in that arch a little bit, anywhere it feels yummy. And then we'll change and do the other foot. So take a moment when you switch and just notice the different feeling between the 2 feet. And then just start just leaning in, leaning your weight in, rolling from the top of the foot, the ball of the foot, through the arch to the center line. And as it unwinds, maybe you find you can lean a little bit more into it. Just really getting in there. Hoo-wee. Remember, the slower you go, the more of an unwinding you'll get. So take it anywhere that feels juicy. A few more rolls, just leaning in. And then come to the heel. Step on that ball with the heel. Ball of the foot is on the mat most likely. And then bring it into that metatarsal arch. And just pause there. Take a few breaths. And then roll it out again. And just take it through the arch a little bit more. The whole foot. All right. And then we're going to just set the ball aside. Come on to the feet. Ooh, they feel so alive. Go ahead and just take a shake. Feel the feet below you. Maybe rock and roll from the ball of the foot to the heel. Find that hip distance or even maybe slightly closer than hip distance. And then settle into the feet, feeling that sense of groundedness. Spread the toes. And we're going to take some twists here. So just let your arms and hands lead the way. And start connecting all the way from the root, down the legs, up through the crown. So opening up the whole central channel, just let your arms swing. And then perhaps you want to start to tap the kidneys behind you. And then once you got a good rock and roll on the kidneys, maybe you want to tap one kidney and tap the opposite shoulder. Just gently. A few more swings. And then we'll start to release the hand that's tapping the shoulder and just tap both the kidneys. And then we're going to start to release this tap on the kidneys and just let the arms swing, and then slowly give less effort, and see if you can just find your way back to center. And then taking a body scan here, let the hands float up overhead. And then bring the fingertips together, palms facing the body, and just noticing what you notice here as you connect the crown down to the root. So imagine drawing down that heavenly chi all around and through the body, letting it go down into the legs, roots, down into the earth, and then take two more like that. So just opening up the energetic channel. You can take your hands to the sides or maybe even behind and just moving through the energetic field, drawing that connection between heaven and earth. Take one more. When you feel nice and grounded here, we're just going to start shaking. So we're going to just bounce a little bit as if that shake's coming up the legs, into the pelvis, up into the shoulders and the arms. And you can really start to just let your body move here. Shake it off. You can make it like a dance if you want. And just let that shake move through the whole body. You're standing on an earthquake. A few more breaths here. Just really let it, everything that doesn't belong to you, get shaken out. And then find your way back to center. Give it a couple more good shakes. And then release. Notice the feeling of the skin, of the internal movement. And then we're just going to sweep out from the heart, down the outside of the arm, and then up the inside of the arm, back to the heart. Sweep down the outside of the arm from the heart, up the inside of the arm to the heart. And then sweep down the front of the body, front of the legs, out the tops of the feet, and then the inside of the feet, up inside the groin, and then coming back to the kidneys, place the hands at the bottom of the rib cage over the kidneys, and take a full breath in, full breath out. All right, we're going to take one ball over to the wall. So if it's a door, just make sure no one's going to come in it. And we're going to roll the ball right along the deltoid and into the front, pause here, and then roll it into the back, right above that crease in the arm, and pause there. So you'll feel when you need to pause. I'm just going to bring the ball to the wall, press in. So I'm moving my feet, so I'm a little bit at an angle here. And then I'm just going to start leaning in and rolling across that area of the upper arm. Pausing in the back, finding that, that's a little tender. Pausing there, taking a deep breath in, and then rolling back through, Again, nice and slowly. Sometimes the ball might slip, but just see if you can just readjust. And then pausing in the front, take a full breath in. And then just rolling back and forth. Pausing at both the front and the back in that nice and juicy spot. You might notice other parts of your body get like a twitch or a little bit of a release because all the fascia in the body is connected. Go ahead and take a couple more rollouts here. And then all the way through, one more time. And then we're going to take the ball away. Lean against the wall so you can flatten your whole back against the wall. Tuck the shoulder blades down away from the ears, and we're just going to do a little bit of strengthening. So we're going to move that arm we just rolled out really slowly. Just bring it up parallel to the floor. Pause. Now here, see if you can bring your arm bone back so it's tucked into the shoulder socket. So you can feel the shoulder against the wall, and then go ahead and raise it all the way up. And we're just going to move really, really slowly through this. So I'm active in the legs, pressing the back against the wall, and then moving really, really slowly, pausing at 90 degrees, making sure that the shoulder, the arm bone's tucked into the shoulder, and then down. Super slow. And then we're going to turn the hand so it's palm side up and do the same thing. Moving really slowly here. Pausing at the center. And then you might not be able to go so far with the hand up. And then back down. Super slow. And then one more, this time with the hand, the palm towards the body, thumbs up. Just moving super slowly through that plane, pausing at the 90 degrees. And then all the way up. And then back through. So moving super slowly so we target not the prime movers, not the big muscles, but these tiny little stabilizing muscles. And then release at the bottom. Notice the difference in the feeling between the two arms. And then we'll do the same rollout on the other arm. So pick your ball back up. And just rolling through and across. Pausing. And you can take it at your own pace, but take it at your own pace as slow as you can move. So stay with it. Instead of rushing, just see if you can move even slower. Take a couple more, so just stay with yourself, stay with the sensation. Last one. And then back through. Take the ball out. And then strengthening those stabilizers again, find your way to the wall. So really find your back on the wall first. Draw the belly button towards the spine, press the lower back into the wall. Draw the shoulder blades down against the ears. And then first strengthening, we're moving with the palm side down. So whenever you're ready, when you come up at 90 degrees, tuck that arm bone. So if your shoulder's not touching the wall, draw the arm bone back into the socket. And we'll take 2 rounds like this, just moving slowly and gently through this plane. So even though there's no weight in your hand, it still can be interesting to see what muscles are working here. And that moving slow can be a lot of work. Keep your back against the wall. And then we'll take a round with the palm side up. And you're probably going to get up just about, not quite all the way to the top. And then back through. And then one round with the palm toward the body, thumb side up. And then back through. And then just find a moment there to feel what it feels like. We're going to come onto the back, onto the mat, and we're going to bring 2 balls now onto the mat with us and bring them right to this place where the shoulders and the neck meets. So we'll release the traps here. So you'll be using your body weight. And keep a block handy because there's a variation where you might want to go deeper. So find your way onto your back in bridge prep pose. Take all those little movements to tuck the shoulder blades in, feel the low back on the mat, and then bring the balls right into that area, the base of the neck. So they'll be sticking out just a little bit. See if you can find symmetry there. And what we're going to be doing then is that same movement we were doing at the wall, but now with both arms. So first let the shoulders relax. Engage in the core. Flatten the back onto the mat. And then we'll start bringing the arms up, lifting the arms. When they're 90 degrees perpendicular from the floor, go ahead and make sure that you're letting the arm bones sink into the shoulder sockets. So just that same movement we did at the wall, this time it's a little bit more passive. And then go ahead and bring the arms up overhead. And again, you're moving really, really slowly. Now when the arms are coming up overhead, you might feel like the belly wants to come up off the mat. So you can stay engaged there. And then bring the arms back up super slowly. All the way. Now we're going to continue on with this movement, moving this mindfully slow, snail pace slow. But you might want to go a little deeper by taking the block underneath the sacrum lifting the pelvis, and you'll get a little bit more weight on those balls. So you're welcome to try that or stay with this first variation. And then just continuing on. So once you find you change pose, just find your good alignment and then carry on. And remember, you can pause anywhere along this movement. So if you find a spot where it's like, ooh, that needs a little extra right there, just pause there, take a breath. See if you can find just 3 more rounds here. Super slow. Feeling everything. Really letting the shoulders sink into those balls more and more on each round. So you might start to really notice by this last round where you're holding. So make sure you let yourself pause. Last round. Once you arrive back into your bridge prep pose, if you have the block underneath you, go ahead and remove it. Remove the balls and then just allow yourself a few breaths there, hugging the knees towards the chest. And just notice what you notice now in this area where the balls just were. Draw the knees towards the chest and just rock and roll a little bit. You can bring the palms to the kneecaps and take a circle there. The knees going the same direction. And then take the circle the opposite direction. Now we're going to roll onto the side body. We're going to start with one ball on the side body. So you can come up, we're going to bring the ball into the IT band a little bit, but we're going to start, see if you can find the top of your pelvis, the iliac crest, the bone there, and then we're going to come right below there. You'll probably feel a little tender spot. So you're going to be able to control how much weight you put on it. So you're going to bring the ball just below the bone. Now, a couple different ways you can place more weight. I like to stay with the forearm plank and then just use one leg as a kickstand and just get in there and roll a little bit back and forth. And then find a place where you can pause and relax and just release into it. Ooh-wee, spicy. And now we're going to roll down a little bit. So press into that kickstand leg. Just roll down just a little bit. Now you're going to feel where it's bone and where it's flesh. And we don't want to settle into a place where there's bone. We want to pause and find a fleshy bit where we can let our weight relax and just pause there. We have to breathe through it for at least 12 seconds to really find a release. So give yourself that time and then notice after maybe 4 or 5 breaths how something shifts and changes. All right, and then we're going to press ourselves back up, come to the other side. So finding the bony part, the top of the pelvis, and then coming, press with your fingers, and you'll feel if you go straight down a line, the first sort of juicy spot. See if you can find that on the other side. And then using a hand and a kickstand for a leg, just guide yourself to roll into a spot where you can settle. Let yourself settle. And then roll out to another spot, find another juicy spot a little lower, not on the bone, but in that flesh, and just pause there, 4 or 5 breaths. 12 to 15 seconds, more if you can. Perfect. Go ahead and roll off the ball. Come into your tabletop. And here, just taking any juicy movement, nice and slow, and just notice this connection now between the hips and the shoulders. And then we're going to come into a downward dog here. So brighten your fingers, bring the weight onto the first finger and the thumb, tuck the toes, and then press into the hands. Keep the knees bent for a moment, find length in the spine, and then see if you can make your way to downward dog, really gently walking the dog out. And again, just noticing this connection between the places we've rolled out. Go ahead and walk your dog for a moment. And then settle in for just a breath. We're going to go ahead and walk the hands towards the feet. Find a forward fold and just relax into that forward fold. Let the crown of the head relax. See that the tongue is relaxed. And just take a moment there in that forward fold. Knees are soft. And then rolling up to standing, letting the upper body hang while you come up through the lower back, middle back, upper back, head and neck come last. Let the hands float up overhead. Get nice and tall here. Clasp one wrist. Little lateral stretch. And then back to center, other side. And then back to center. And here we're just going to give ourselves a pranic bath and really get into those shoulders. I'm going to come to my knees so you can see me. You can stay standing. I'm going to bring the forearms together, scooping up, keeping the forearms together and the elbows together as long as I can. And then as the elbows come apart, rolling the backs of the hands together, nice and tall. Brighten the fingers. And then right back down to where you started. Go ahead and take a few more rounds here. So moving some of the fluid through the shoulder joint. Go ahead and find 2 more. Move nice and slow, let it be pleasant. Last one. And then take that lateral stretch again. And then find your way back to the top of the mat. Feeling a little taller, take your feet hip distance apart, tune back into those wide open feet. Adjust anything you need, soften the knees, relax the tailbone down, zip the pubic bone towards the belly button. Roll out those shoulders if you need, and find your Tadasana. Take a full breath in, full breath out, strength of mountain pose. On an inhale, let the hands float up overhead. Exhale, dive forward into your forward fold. Release completely into the forward fold. On the inhale, half lift, fingertips to shins, extend through the crown, and then bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back into plank. Take a full breath in plank and then lower down just the knees. We're going to take some scapula push-ups here. You can do it in tabletop, or you can do it in plank with the knees down on the mat. So draw the belly button towards the spine. Really strengthen the back no matter which pose you're in. And then we're just going to make this little movement. So the elbows are soft. They're not bending. We're not bending to come down in plank. We're just moving the heart forward. Shoulder blades retract towards each other in the back. And then pressing into the mat and drawing the shoulder blades, retracting them away from each other. So just take a few little movements here. See if you can find 3 more of this very small movement scapula push-up. And then we're going to come back up, walk ourselves back, take the knees wide, toes together, find child's pose. Let the arms come up alongside the ear bones. If you need a block under your head, go ahead and grab that. And then today we're going to bend at the elbows, interlace the fingers or hands in prayer, and bring that to the back of the head. And then just pause there. See if you can find 2 more breaths. And then go ahead and move yourself forward. Come back into your tabletop and just move through whatever movement makes your body feel good. So hip circles, swing, cat and cow. Now before we come onto the back, we're going to do one more for the shoulders. And again, you get a few choices. We're targeting in here in the pec. So getting into the pec minor. And if you poke around with your fingers in this fleshy bit, so not quite up here to the shoulder joint, which can also be quite tender, but down a little bit more. Just poke around with your fingers there. And we're going to get in there with the ball, and you get a couple of choices. So if you have a lot of breast tissue, you can bring a block with you and bring a ball to a block that's going to go into that point. And then everyone's going to want a block or cushion probably underneath the head. So one variation, let me do it on this side so you can see. I'm going to come onto the belly. I'm going to lift the ball onto the block. It's right on the corner there. You can see that. And then get in here and find a nice point. Nice point might also mean tender. So just allow yourself that sensation for a moment. And then we're just going to bring the head onto the block and the arms both out in cactus. So that's one variation. The second variation, which can be really intense, is to take the arms out to the side, take the block away from, use the block only on the head, remove it from where you're holding the armpit. The ball is now in that same space, and then I can start to walk my fingertips out and come into this shoulder opening. So find your pose. And we're going to settle into it for about another minute. So whichever one suits you. Find a few more breaths here. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the props, roll onto the belly for a moment, stack the wrists, and just feel the difference between the two. And then go ahead and set it up for the other side. So whichever one you want to do on the other side, I'm going to stick with the block, a little bit more passive there. And then arms in cactus, or arms are straight out if you're in the other pose. And then just settle into your breath. And a few more breaths here. And then once again, you're going to remove the props, come onto your belly, and just pause there for a moment. Take a few deep breaths into your belly. Feel the compression of the floor of the belly on the floor. See if you can relax into that for another big full breath in, full breath out. And then bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Draw yourself back into tabletop. Take that juicy movement. And then we're going to roll onto the back. So we're going to we'll connect now the shoulders to the hips, starting with the lower back and the sacrum. So go ahead and roll back into your bridge prep. And then see if you can find your sacrum. So again, we're right below the bony part of the pelvis. You're going down from there. And then just in a little bit, and there's this bone right here where the spine tucks in. And what we're going to do is work from the sacrum up along these muscle bands on either side of the spine. So we're going to keep the ball off the spine in the middle and work on this muscle bands alongside the spine. So just pause and start at the bottom. See if you can find your way into a little bit of symmetry here on either side of the sacrum. Once you find a good spot to relax into, you can let the legs go long or you can keep the legs bent. And we're just gonna take about 10 breaths each space. So if you wanna tune into the breath, find your hands on your belly and really start to elongate that breath and stay with that breath. Because some of these points might seem like you wanna roll off them right away. So find one that you can stay in enough to really breathe deep and breathe all the way down into the belly. And take note of any little unwinding or any little flinches or any little muscle release or any movement in the body that happens. Just know that that's part of the release, it's part of the unwinding. See if you can find 3 more breaths wherever you're at. And then we're gonna bend the legs again. Now, how you get there, you might have to bring the balls up. We're gonna come up above the bony part of the pelvis and just roll through a little bit. So rolling along the whole sacrum. So this becomes a little game with yourself. If you have your balls in a sock, they'll stay together more symmetrically. If your balls are separate, you might roll on and off. So just roll out that sacrum, find the bony top of the pelvis, and then come right back below it, and we'll just take a little side to side there. That should feel pretty good. Remember, you want to stay off the bones and in the fleshy bits. And stuff is gonna move, so you're gonna want to readjust it, but see if you can get in there to that area, the top of the pelvis, where all those muscles attach. And just give yourself a little side to side. And then find your way back. And we're just gonna roll up and down along the spinae erector muscles. And then start to come into the low back. So I'm going to use my feet to control maybe the arm bones a little bit. And now I'm going to come into the low back here. So rolling through that bony part of the pelvis, that feels pretty good. And then coming just above it to see if I can find a symmetrical place where I can actually allow the pelvis to relax on the mat, feel supported on the mat, and then moving the balls so I can get into a point on the low back there, and then just pause. Again, if you really want to stay with your breath and keep your breath on, bring your hands to your belly. You can keep your legs in bridge prep, or you can extend them long. So through this act of the compressing the tissue, we're able to bring a lot of nourishment into the tissue. So working through compression to push out something so that new, fresh blood and chi can come into the area, which is the warmth you feel after you move away from the area. Go ahead and find 3 more breaths in whatever spot you're at. And then if the legs are extended, bend the knees. We're going to lift the pelvis once again, and then we're going to roll up the spine. You can use your hands if you need to move the blocks. We're going to see if we can find another juicy spot. So I'm going to come right below the rib cage, set the pelvis down, and then bring the hands to the belly and just breathe there. And the more I can relax the body, the more I'm going to get out of the pose, because the extra body weight is going to help press, the relaxed body weight, I should say, is going to help bring a little bit more compression in. Now, if you notice the breath start to shorten, it just might be a little too intense. So if after about 3 breaths, you still feel like you're shortening the breath, move to a different spot. Move to a spot where you can keep the breath long. Take just about 3 more breaths in this spot where you're at. And then we'll keep moving up the back. So if your legs are extended, bend the knees. You might be able to roll yourself up. You might want to use the hands to roll you, but see if you can roll through a few times the middle of the back. It's going to feel pretty interesting there along the ribs. So we're going to actually make sure that we don't pause there too much, but sort of roll through there, and then see if we can bring ourselves up so that the balls are on the bottom of the shoulder blade. So just roll through behind the belly a little bit, and then see if you can find your way up to the middle of the back and the shoulders. So coming almost to the bottom of the shoulder blade or right below it, mid-back, and then again, just pausing there. Woo-wee, spicy. Hands can stay on the belly, legs can stay bent or long on the mat, and just pause there and breathe. So again, the spot you choose to stop is up to you. There's tons of acupressure points along this band of muscle, so wherever you're comfortable that you can keep the breath long. Wherever you're comfortable enough to keep the breath long. And then again, with each exhale, just letting the body feel a little bit heavier, relaxing into it. Take a couple more breaths here. And then we're going to start rolling through the whole shoulder blade area. So you might have to adjust yourself to be able to stay on your mat. You might move the body, getting close to the edge of the mat. To see if you can just start to then work into the shoulder blades. So getting on the inside, not on the bone. Might just touch the bone on the outside, and see if you can start rock and rolling in those shoulder blades. So again, think of staying in the fleshy bits. And then see if you can find a point somewhere in the middle to just relax. Take any adjustments that you need to bring the balls closer in so they're not on the bone, so that they're symmetrical. And then again, the arms can be alongside the body or your hands can be on the belly. And just 10 breaths. Three more breaths. And then once again, we're going to work to roll through the shoulder blades, between the spine and the shoulder blade. We're going to find a point right near the top of the shoulder blade, maybe a little bit lower than where we were before when we were unwinding the trapezius. And then sink in. 10 breaths. See if you can find 3 more breaths there. And then we're just going to take one more, we're going to roll the balls up and out. And we're going to see if we can find the occipital ridge, the place behind the skull, the back of the skull where the flesh of the neck meet and the back of the skull meet. And we're going to see if we can find 2 places. Now, this one can be a little tricky because it's a little harder to find a place of balance here. So just see if you can find a place where you can get a little compression, balance the weight of the head, and just pause there. See if you can find 3 more breaths. And then we're going to remove the balls. Take a moment there to just feel this warmth along the whole spinal column, from the tailbone all the way up to the crown of the head. And then we'll start to take a little unwinding here, but before we do, we're going to do one little strengthening exercise. So grab your block. We're going to bring the feet to 90 degrees. Place the hand over the block, and we're going to use this hand to press the thigh into the hand. So whichever side you're starting on, I'm going to start with my right hand on the right block, right leg pressing into the right hand, just gently. Left hand's going to come behind my head, and then we're going to do a little crunch here. So bringing your upper body up, extending the leg long, pressing the right leg into the right hand, and then back down. So just 5 each side. Extend that leg you're not working with as you come up. The more you can press the bent leg into the hand, the more you can keep the low back on the mat, the more you're going to get out of it. Last one. And then back up. Go ahead and change legs. So I'm going to bring the block to the left hand pressing into the block, leg pressing into the thigh, right hand behind the head, and then just moving myself up here. A little crunch. 3 more, nice and slow. Last one. And then release. Bring the knees towards the chest, rock the hips a little side to side. And then we've unwound the whole spine, so we're going to take a nice deep twist here. You can take any twist you like. So if you want to take twisted roots, you can stack the knees. I'm going to take just a simple double leg twist because I like to keep everything aligned. So I'll press into the feet, lift the pelvis, bring the pelvis over to the left side, block between the legs to keep the legs aligned, arms out to the side, and then the legs are going to come over to the right. Now, if the left shoulder is popping up, perhaps you can steady the shoulders by pressing the arm bones, or perhaps you want to bring a pillow underneath the legs so that the left shoulder stays on the mat. And then arms can be out to either side. Take a couple breaths here. And then see if the head and neck want to unwind, looking towards the left. Perhaps the head wants to follow, and then just settle in there. Let your breath do the work so you can make your breath a little bit longer and get a little bit deeper into the pose. We'll take 3 more breaths here. If you've looked the head over to the left, go ahead and roll the head back to center. Reach down and remove the block from the legs if you're doing the double leg twist. And then walk yourself back. Squeeze the knees into the chest. Hit the reset button. And then we'll take twist on the other side. So this time, moving the pelvis over to the right. Legs are going to come to the left. Finding steadiness in the shoulders. And then once you find steadiness in the legs and the shoulders, perhaps you want to open the head up to look towards the right. And then see if you can close the eyes off and just breathe and keep the breath nice and long here. And remember, the depth in this pose is going to come from the depth of the breath and the release of the breath. See if you can find 3 more breaths here. And if you've lift the head to the right, go ahead and roll it back to center. Full breath in the middle, and then reach down, release the block, roll yourself back to center. Now we're going to come into Shavasana here, so you're welcome to take any final movements you'd like to before Shavasana. And I invite you today, you can take a regular Shavasana or you can use the balls. Now, if you feel around on the outer edge of the buttock, there's quite can be a little tender. It's where there's like some people have a little dimple there because of the joint, so you can see the balls are a little bit out. I'm not fully, they're not really underneath me. They're underneath me, but you can still see them on the side. And then you can just let the legs go long and stay there. Take a deep belly breath. Bring the breath to the belly. If you don't like this with the balls, just come into your regular Shavasana. And then let your arms come to the side. Tuck the shoulder blades underneath you. And just allow this integration, this download, and the silence and the stillness. Notice what you notice going on inside the body. There might be a lot of heat. There might be a sense of sparkle. Just stay with it. Let the mind stay alert to notice what it feels like for the body to feel this relaxation. And if you're in your home, you're welcome to stay in Shavasana as long as you like. For those of you who have to move on to something else, you can start to wake up the body really slowly, perhaps just bringing the fingertips to touch the tip of the thumb, perhaps just moving the fingers and the toes very slowly, very slightly. Perhaps you start to notice this connection from the tips of the toes, the tips of the fingers, to everything else in the body as you start to awaken the physical body to move again. If you have the balls underneath you, you'll want to bring the feet back onto the mat, your bridge prep, take the balls away. And then let the arm bones come up over the side, alongside the head. Take a little stretch here, any movement you need. Maybe it feels good to windshield wiper out the legs a little bit with the feet wide. And then whenever you're ready, bringing yourself into a fetal pose on the side body, hugging the knees towards the chest, using the arm as a pillow. Just take a couple breaths there. And then press yourself up. Find your way to your comfortable seat. Here at the seat, you'll notice the sits bones, the base of the spine. See if you can find balance there. Let the crown rise up. And then one more time, we're going to inhale the arms up overhead. It's time bringing all the fingertips together so the palms are just a little bit apart, as if you're protecting a flame. Draw that flame back to your heart center. Bring that light into the heart. Press the thumbs into the sternum. Take a full breath in, full breath out. And just honor yourself for showing up today, for being here for yourself, working on being embodied. Thank you for allowing me to guide your practice. Namaste.